Washington, Crossfire. Tonight, illegal aliens. The host for Crossfire, on the left, Tom Braden. On the right, sitting in for Pat Buchanan, John Lofton. In the Crossfire, Arnold Torres, Executive Director of the League of United Latin American Citizens, and Roger Connor, Executive Director of the Federation for American Immigration Reform.
Good evening and welcome to Crossfire. We're missing Arnold Torres, one of our guests, but we expect him shortly. 1 million. That is the general estimate of the number of illegal aliens who are coming into this country each year. But Speaker Tip O'Neill, pulling an immigration bill off the floor of the House yesterday, says there's nothing Congress can do about it. There's no constituency out there for immigration reform, O'Neill said, and beside, the Hispanic American community is against it. So, what do? Roger Connor, is it fair? Do we just say, look, we're a country that can't control its own borders?
I just reject that, Tom. I think the time has come for America to regain control of its borders, because a nation doesn't have control of immigration, really doesn't have control of its own future.
I think that I would agree with you on that. But then why have you, the Federation for American Immigration Reform, why have you failed to convince the Congress that it has to take some action? Or is it true that in the United States, as the political year comes up and as people begin to worry about the Hispanic vote, the country is just paralyzed?
Well, let's put it in context. A bill was introduced at the beginning of this session. It was passed by the Senate with over 78 votes. It was reported out of the Judiciary Committee in the House. It is now ready to go to the floor. So we've got a bill that's fairly far along. I've done a vote count on the floor, and it's clear that this bill, if it were put up for a vote, would be strengthened by amendments on the floor, and it would pass. And I would guess it would pass with over 300 votes. Now, that's the context in which Speaker O'Neill in the last couple of days says, I am not going to allow this bill to be voted on.
Well, surely O'Neill is worried about the Hispanic American vote.
Well, he said in his press conference that the Hispanic Americans were against this bill, and it has been widely stated that various Hispanic organizations will punish Democrats who vote for immigration reform. That's their quote.
All right, let me ask you about a quote of yours in a press release here. You alluding to this immigration bill that is before Congress. You said that, and I quote, this country, will continue to have a permanent underclass living in the shadows. What does that mean?
That means we have people who've come in illegally, who are working, and who the employer knows at any time that they do something the employer doesn't like. The employer can call the immigration service, and out he goes out the country. It subjects these illegal immigrants to a change in the power relationship between the employer and the worker that creates intolerable conditions.
All right, Roger Connor and John Lofton. We're going to take a break for a minute because Arnold Torres of the League of United Latin American Citizens will join us right after this.
Coffee knows how to say good morning.
Last night, I just programmed Mr. Coffee to have my coffee ready when I wake up. With this electronic digital command system, Mr. Coffee woke up before I did, and the brewing started automatically. Now that great Mr. Coffee flavor's ready and waiting. Mr. Coffee really knows how to say good morning. Now, Mr. Coffee is also available in analog clock model.
Nearly 100 years ago in Oregon, the legend of the Pendleton shirt was born. Today, the legend has grown. Pure virgin wools, pure Pendleton quality, every step, every stitch of the way. In Western wear, Lobo, country traditionals, and the Pendleton shirt. All made in America. 4 generations of Pendleton quality and value. Enduring like the mountain itself.
All of us should count our blessings. But the older you get, the harder it is to count on anything, especially life insurance protection. That's why I urge you to join the thousands of others who've already called about the Adult American Security Life Plan. It's only for us folks between 45 and 75 years old, and it guarantees permanent life insurance for just $6.95 a month. You can't be turned down, there's no medical exam, and your coverage can never be canceled. Call now and you'll receive this personal security card plus secrets of financial security absolutely free. Life insurance protection for only $6.95 a month. It's one blessing we all can count on.
To get the free information package that Mike Douglas spoke of, call toll-free 1-800-257-1257. Your free information kit and financial handbook will be rushed to you with no obligation. So call 1-800-257-1257. The enrollment period is open, so call now. 1-800-257-1257.
Hi, welcome back to Crossfire, where tonight we're talking about illegal immigration. And our guests are Mr. Arnold Torres, who is National Executive Director of the League of United Latin American Citizens in Washington, and Mr. Roger Connor, who is Executive Director of the Federation for American Immigration Reform, called FAIR. Look, I think it's obvious that whatever laws we have on the books are not working. There's an awful lot of people coming here who are coming here illegally, but so what? Isn't it true that most of these people, the overwhelming majority of them, are producers, that they're helping this economy, they're paying taxes, they're trying to better their own plight economically, and what's wrong with that?
There's a great argument we could take all night about that, and my answer is, if these people are needed for our economy, if somebody can make a case we need to bring in thousands, hundreds of thousands of foreign workers when we have 10% unemployment, then let's bring them in legally. There's nothing wrong with that, but what this legislation and this argument about is, we've got a system of illegal immigration not determined by the people of the United States, not controlled by the Congress or the government of the people of the United States, but we have anarchy.
But do you quarrel with my assertion that they're helping the economy? It seems to me like you're making a narrow, abstract legal point, and I'm trying to make a human point, that there are millions of people coming here who are fathers and mothers, and they're trying to economically better themselves, and I'm sympathetic to that.
Of course, we're all sympathetic to that. The problem is that we got 10% unemployment. We've got many Americans who are not making a living, and the presence, the addition of hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants to the labor force. They don't compete with you for jobs. They don't compete with Tom or me or Arnold. They compete at the bottom of the economic ladder. They're driving wages down at the bottom of the ladder. They're taking people's jobs at the bottom of the ladder. And what's equally important,
let's ask them.
They're blocking people's way up the ladder.
A minute, Mr. Connors, and ask our newest guest, Arnold Torres, League of United Latin American Citizens, what is it that the Hispanic Americans oppose about an immigration law? Are you in favor? Tip O'Neill says that the Hispanic Americans are against immigration reform. What do you want to do? Just open the borders and say anybody come?
Well, first of all, it's important to understand the backdrop. Roger alluded to the fact that there were 300 votes in support of this bill. We talked to a number of members on the Hill, and there's no way you can get any kind of an accurate head count on this bill going into the fight had it gone.
I know, but why are you against it?
Okay, the reason, and also the speaker did not indicate that Hispanics were against immigration reform. They are against Simpson-Mazzoli. They're against this type of immigration reform because of the employer sanctions ID concept, the guest worker program, and the type of legalization program that was proposed in the bill.
Well, now, wait a minute. Do you carry a Social Security card?
Yes.
And when you fill your income tax out, they ask you to write down what your Social Security number is?
That's true.
Then what is your objection to having an ID card that says who you are and where you come from?
Because the ID card, as proposed in this bill, would have been in order to legitimize your status in order to get an employment. And the problem with doing that type of situation is that, as has been indicated in the past, Hispanics are viewed as the primary problem. Therefore, Hispanics are going to feel the brunt of any kind of questioning of the ID card.
Hold on, wait just a minute. Hispanics are the primary problem. Most of the illegal immigrants
are
coming across from the Mexican border.
How do you tell the difference between illegal and illegal?
We know this from statistics that the illegal immigrants... I've talked to these fellows out in Chula Vista on the Border Patrol.
Right.
They say they arrest them one night, they're back the next night, they arrest them again, they're back the next... Eventually they get across.
What I'm asking,
the estimate is $1 million a year.
That's right. What I'm asking you is how do you tell the difference without getting into problems of civil rights?
You see, Arnold, you're often...
Well, all you do is ask... I wouldn't be perfectly... Well, I have a Social Security card here in my pocket. I'd be perfectly willing to carry an identity card, and if somebody says to me, are you a citizen? Can you prove it? I pull out my identity card. What's wrong?
Well, I think the problem is that you're not probably going to be put in a position where you're going to have to be asked for that card.
And that's the reason the legislation doesn't say... The legislation
can say anything it wants on a piece of paper. The fact of the matter is that when a bill is implemented, when a law is implemented, that is the measurement of a good law or a bad law.
Well, isn't that better, Mr. Torres, than the situation we now have, where we have a bunch of guys working in a restaurant, and in comes the Immigration Service, and what do? They round them all up, citizen or non-citizen.
Clearly, the Hispanic Americans in this country, the majority, contrary to any polls that are taken, felt that this bill was not in the best interest, that the best thing to do was to go back and look at something that, in our opinion, was much more free of problems, such as the enforcement of labor laws. If, in fact, you're that concerned about the displacement of workers, you can point to all the studies that you want, Roger, and you're going to point to maybe 2 or 3 that you've always pointed to. The fact of the matter is that there is a displacement. You're not going to get any argument from us. You've never got an argument from us. But the matter that the economic incentive,
taking jobs Americans want and need. That's a fact.
In some cases, that's the case. In some cases, that's a fact.
Okay, we're agreed on that.
That's right.
And that's bad. We're agreed on that?
Very bad.
Okay.
That's very bad.
And the thing is that the average illegal immigrant who's apprehended in Denver is making $7 an hour. In Los Angeles, $5 an hour. In Chicago, $4.70 an hour. They're taking jobs that Americans want and need.
Well, wait a minute. Why would Americans hire foreigners, illegal foreigners, as if they're given a choice to hire another American? I don't understand.
Because the illegal foreigner doesn't ask for health insurance as part of it. He doesn't ask for paid leave.
It's an economic
incentive. He doesn't ask for vacation.
So what? Maybe he values other things.
Well, the point is that they drive the wages down for American workers.
Well, that means the products are cheaper. That means I can buy products cheaper if the labor is cheaper.
So you benefit in the short run, and the American workers lose.
No,
you may like that, but the American workers dislike it. It's bad.
Well, let me ask Mr. Torres whether he believes. Do you believe that the United States should control its own borders?
I think the country, I think those are all great goals to try to achieve.
Well, we always have throughout our history until recently. But what do you want us to do? Station a couple of divisions down on the Rio Grande?
No, what we're saying is that, see, the orientation that you come to in trying to address this problem is this feeling that the problem can be solved. You see, that is
it can be solved.
No, it can't be solved. See, you and all the other public
Arnold is trying to convince us all that the problem can't be solved so that we won't try. That's the strategy that he's convinced Tip O'Neill is don't even try.
That's the number. See, again, it's
a problem.
First of all, let me add one thing to Roger's comment. It's important to always understand that non-Hispanics have a tendency to always speak for Hispanics, and Roger's doing that. It's not our intention to try to convince anybody of anything, except for the fact that this bill was not going to accomplish many of the objectives that its proponents contended. This program and this legislation would have honestly created more problems than to really address the primary push factors of why people are coming. Now, that isn't to say that nothing should be done. We've never advocated that nothing should be done.
Well, then
but what we're trying.
What would you have us do?
Well, we've indicated earlier. You should strengthen the ability to patrol the borders. You should do that along the Canadian border as much as you do it against the southwest border. You should try to improve the ability to patrol also all ports of entry. You should enforce the labor laws. You should assess why certain American workers do not want to take certain types of jobs. Is it a question of labor market economics, or is it a question of simply a sociology, a development of American society that simply says, I don't want to take certain types of jobs?
But look, Mr. Torres, if we actually patrol the borders, according to General Chapman, who was head of the Border Patrol...
Who was full of exaggerations in many of the statements he made.
He said we'd have to have a couple of divisions down there with maybe bloodhounds to get the people...
I think
we don't want to see that. The American people don't want to be hunting down with dogs.
You're proposing to hunt them down in the interior now, as has been the case.
No, all I'm asking them is, why don't you have an identity card?
An identity card...
Wait a minute, let me get in here. First of all, if we're going to send 2 divisions anywhere, I'd like to send them into Nicaragua, but I am very sympathetic to your cause on this immigration question, but I think I am hostile to your politics. Now, you made some very politically provocative remarks in an article you did this past June in the Los Angeles Times. You said there would be no immigration reform until fundamental problems were dealt with, and you seem to indicate that one of the fundamental problems is American foreign policy. You said that a lot of these immigrants coming from El Salvador, Nicaragua, Cuba, that they will continue to come as long as the United States foreign policy continues to foster an environment of political instability and economic stagnation. My question is, with the Soviets and the Cubans stirring up so much strife in this hemisphere, why do you write an article in which you attack only the United States?
Well, I don't think it was our intention to attack only the United States, Mr. Lofton. I think the point that we were trying to make is that there's a very long history of political instability in many of Central American, Caribbean, and South American countries. Much of that stability has been traced back to some involvement at one time or another of the U.S. government.
But currently?
Well, whether...
I mean, seriously, you didn't mention Soviets or Cubans at all.
Mexico is a basket case economically. We know why the Mexicans want to get in here, and I can't blame them a bit. They don't have any jobs, and they're poor. But that doesn't mean, it seems to me, that we can't establish a policy. What about the people that are waiting over in Vienna? Wait for years to try to get legally into the United States.
No one in Vienna waits for years to come into the United States.
Certainly do.
Look, you got to
sure they do.
Certainly
I know people who do.
Tom's faith in government to solve any problem is boundless, unlimited. Of course we can have a policy, Tom, something on paper, but it's not working.
Look, for heaven's sake, don't pull that conservative stuff on me. For heaven's sake, you know perfectly, this country is a country of laws. It was founded as a country of laws.
Got a lot
We
of
have
stupid
immigration
laws. Got a
laws.
lot of stupid
Let's
laws.
enforce them. That's all I'm saying.
Well, that's what
I
we're
don't know
saying.
where you're coming from.
Well, that's what
John.
we're trying to tell you. Why don't we enforce the labor laws? Why create a brand new law?
I've got
enforce the laws
I've
that
got
are
to
there.
prick one balloon here, just so we get a couple things on the record. We were on this show a little over a year ago, and Arnold said then that he was in favor of increased border enforcement. That was his alternative. And
No,
I
it wasn't an
invited him then to help us before the appropriations committees to send one letter, to give one word of testimony, to give one minor push with this huge political muscle that he's developed to increase the Border Patrol. And when it came to the appropriations committees, Fair was alone. When it came to asking for increased appropriations for INS enforcement, Fair was alone. Not one word. So these are words about enforcement.
That's
There's no alternative that has been advanced
in this bill,
other than an alternative to bring about economic development in Mexico and Central America. Everybody's in favor of that, and it's a very long-term.
Are you all talked, or why do you
no, that's not true. The amendment that was carried by Congressman Mazzoli in the markup of this bill in the subcommittee, calling for an increase of $750 million over, I think, a 3-year period, was under no circumstances opposed by us. In fact, what we attempted to do...
Wait a minute. Stop. His point is that you say, we're for something.
We supported it.
Have you testified before Congress?
They have not opened the hearings on appropriations on the hearings that we went.
Last April, there were hearings before the Appropriations Committee where Fair asked for an increase in the Border Patrol.
We don't disagree with that.
Fair asked for an increase in enforcement, and there was not one word, not 1 ounce of political pressure applied by
And the reason why? Because there was no appropriation given to the INS under that fiscal year.
There certainly was. There was an increase, and we helped bring it about.
The bulk of the increase was going to be made during the markup of the subcommittee bill.
No, but Mr. Torres, let me get back to the only alternative you have suggested. Tip O'Neill says the Hispanic Americans are against this particular immigration reform. You've said, yes, that's right, but only this particular one. And the only suggestion I've heard from you is that we put more Border Patrol agents on the border. Now, if we do that in the numbers that will really resist illegal immigration, we're going to have stories in the papers about some poor guy being hunted down by the cops.
That's not. I did not exclusively say that I only wanted to increase Border Patrol. I indicated that we should enforce the labor laws. You made a statement, a very patriotic statement. You said this country's made up of laws. Let's enforce the laws. I say enforce the labor laws that we have on the books. Mr. Connor gave a very good example of why employers hire undocumented people. So they don't pay health insurance, they don't pay unemployment insurance, they don't pay a couple of other taxes.
All right, Mr. Connors, what does he mean when he says enforce the labor laws now on the books? What is he talking about?
Everybody's in favor of enforcing minimum wage and occupational safety and health. But the thing is, that's not going to solve the problem because many, perhaps most of the illegal immigrants today are paid above the minimum wage. They have employers who are not violating the labor laws, but the employers are paying them less than the going wage set by the market for workers, and employers like that, of course. Now, it's one of the things I got to answer. Arnold keeps saying that Hispanic Americans are against this bill because they're against employer sanctions as a concept that will inherently cause discrimination. He's repeated this. He's convinced Tip O'Neill of it. The fact is, it's false. There was a poll conducted this summer by Peter Hart, whom you know, a good Democratic pollster, and Lance Terrence, whom you know, a good Republican pollster. They asked Hispanics in the first national poll ever taken this question: do you favor or oppose the idea of having penalties and fines for employers who hire illegal immigrants? 66% of the Hispanic citizens said, yes, I favor that, and 27% said I oppose it. So
but I think that percentage is shockingly low. I would have thought that 100% of Hispanics would favor obeying the law. That's all.
No. It said, that's a change in the law. That's the change in the law we're seeking that he's against.
Mr. Lofton,
because it's not illegal to hire illegal immigrants.
I think it's important to put this contention by good Roger to rest. This survey that Roger always kicks around is a survey that clearly indicates that Hispanics want some concept of employer sanctions. But what Roger fails to understand and fails to give the public the information that he never provides them with the consequences of that provision. You see, he never once did he do it. He did it 7 questions down the line in a very, very convoluted fashion. So I think it's great that they interviewed 5,000 Hispanics. But this organization has 110,000 members that have never altered their position of opposition to the bill. And it isn't simply because of sanctions. It's because of the ID system, and it's the whole idea of how do you approach the problem. Mr. Braden here thinks that this problem can be solved immediately.
That's right. Well, every problem. He thinks every problem
He thinks everything can be solved. And I think you're looking at a problem that needs a short-term approach and a much longer-term approach. And the longer-term approach as you may disagree to some extent, is to assess how our foreign economic and policy, policy and economic policy actually stimulates the
Well, now, wait a
people.
minute. You accuse me of an immediate problem solving.
Well, that's the approach.
Look,
That's the approach.
naturally, I believe that problems can be solved. If I didn't believe that, I wouldn't be an American. Now, look, we have a bill in the Congress, the Susan-Mazzoli bill.
Not all functions of a government.
It is bipartisan. It was studied for years by a commission, a distinguished commission. The president says he will sign it, and we have Tip O'Neill pulling it off, I think, for political reasons, because you people, the leaders of the Hispanic American groups, are opposed to it. And it seems to me that it's up to you, if you ball me out for not for wanting a solution, it's up to you to provide a solution. I've yet to hear one.
Well, but I guarantee you something, Mr. Braden, and you can bring us on this program by next February, that my organization will have a bill ready to go to the hopper in February of next year.
And that's what you said. It's exactly what you said a year ago, Arnold.
And we presented
and we
presented the alternative, and Mr. Simpson and Mr. Mazzoli said not good enough.
Let me quickly ask you, because you conspicuously ignored my assertion that most illegal immigrants in this country are in fact helping the United States and they are productive people. Do you disagree with that?
It's a false statement. If you look at all the people of the United States, not correct. They are taking jobs that Americans want and need. They're also learning the social welfare state that you love so well.
Me? I love it.
Absolutely right. I was on the wrong side
That's
here.
Right. That's
but
right.
They're learning the social welfare state, and the county of Los Angeles estimates you're talking about $300 to $400 million a year in taxpayer-paid social services by illegal immigrants.
But by the way, was your poll of 5,000 Hispanics that are here legally?
We asked all Hispanics.
We didn't ask the ones that are here illegally.
We asked. There were illegal immigrants in the poll without any doubt.
What percentage?
We asked at the end, are you a citizen? 30% of the respondents were non-citizens.
You think they'd tell you if they weren't?
30% of the polls were conducted in Spanish.
Okay, John Lofton and I want to thank you, Roger Connor, of the Federation for American Immigration Reform, and from the League of United Latin American Citizens, we want to thank Arnold Torres. And John and I will be back in a minute.
Are you tired of the gotcha of old-fashioned wrenches? Well, now there's SureLock, an incredible new universal wrench with a grip like a vise. SureLock versus all these wrenches makes SureLock a sure winner. From 3/8 to 13/16 or 9mm to 22, SureLock fits them all. No more searching for the right size. Do chewed-up bolt heads give you a headache? Relax. SureLock locks up like a vise to loosen even strip nuts, because SureLock works on the flats of the nut, not the corners, like those gotcha wrenches. Metric or imperial, foreign or domestic, lawnmowers, cars, bikes, and toys, nothing's too tight for SureLock. It replaces this $40 set of wrenches and fits right in your pocket. There's more. In a tight spot, watch. SureLock even has a built-in ratchet so it socks it up in seconds. Turn it over and it loosens just as fast. SureLock is made from the finest hardened tool steel. And if you order now, we'll also send you Big Lock. It fits from 13/16 to 1 1/4. Through this offer, you get both wrenches, plus our incredible 10-year written guarantee. We'll also include 10 screwdrivers to fit every type of screw. Plus, as an extra bonus, you'll also receive the amazing pocket tool kit. This incredible tool cuts glass, strips, sharpens, hones, and shapes tile like a professional does. And it's yours as a bonus. You get it all for the amazing price of only $19.99.
To order, use your MasterCard or Visa and call 1-800-257-1257 in New Jersey, 232-6966. Or send $19.99 plus $3 shipping and handling to Wrench Kit, Box 8250, Atlanta. Order now.
When a little girl crush warms up a little too much,
don't reach for the moon, child.
Big Brother steps in, and the fun really begins.
You're still reaching for the moon.
No, Father. The moon's reaching for me.
The last pair of legs that was something cost the family $25,000.
Sabrina, tonight on Superstation WTBS, cable's most popular network.
Tom, I think before you really get on the case of these poor immigrants trying to better their economic plight, that you got to remember this is a nation of immigrants. According to the 1980 census, 118 million Americans identify with one ethnic group, race, one country.
Every one of us is an immigrant or a descendant of immigrant. I grant you that. Now, John, there's one thing that hasn't been mentioned tonight, and I think it's important to just at least touch on it, which is that if illegal immigration continues at its present rate, by the year 2000, this will be a country of 80 million instead of a country of 300 million. Now, I'm not sure that we want to grow that fast.
Well, I think you've fallen victim to the fallacy of the straight line projection. Mark Twain once figured that if the silt at the mouth of the Mississippi River continued to build up at the same rate, it would be 200 miles into the Gulf of Mexico.
This will blow you. I got these figures from the Heritage Foundation.
Well, the Heritage Foundation doesn't walk on water. The only point I'm making is that...
I thought it did.
No, it does not. No, it does not. I've told you another thing you didn't know, Tom. The point is that we have a large country, huge borders. It's a free country. I'm glad it's free. This may be the price we have to pay. I don't think these people are hurting this country, Tom. I don't think these people are hurting this country. I don't buy your statistics. I don't think the data is solid.
Is the price we have to pay for being free to say to anybody in any country,
no, not anybody.
Come on in?
No, on the border.
Come on in, the water's fine.
No, it's on the border, not anybody.
All right, from the left, I'm Tom Braden. Good night for Crossfire.
John Lofton on the right, sitting in for Pat Buchanan. Join us tomorrow for another edition of Crossfire.